And brothers and sisters, our sermon today, we are, like I said, our sermon, Looking for God, our sermon series, Looking for God in All the Wrong Places. Today, we are looking at a Black Sabbath song. Uh, uh, it's on, I think it's on their third album, but, and I can't remember what the third album is called. Doesn't matter. It wasn't Paranoid, and it wasn't the other one. It wasn't Black Sabbath, and it wasn't Paranoid. It was the one after that. Okay. Uh, Now, because Black Sabbath were getting sick of being called Satanists, their bassist Geezer Butler, who well, actually he is. If he's still alive, he is. If he's dead, he was a Christian, and he wrote this. He wrote this particular pro-Christianity song. The lyrics are about this long, and they are about being open-minded and at least consider the possibility of a God existing. The song is called After Forever. Okay. Now, the it opens. Now, the After Forever is actually a series. Most of the song is a series of questions. Okay. The first verse starts off. In the first verse, it starts off like this. Now, I'm not going to do this a tempo, but I've heard the song often enough that I could say it a tempo, just the way it is on the record, you know. But I'm going to read it um, best. I'm going to read it without. It's hard. It's hard, but I'm going to do it anyway. Verse 1 starts off like this. Have you ever thought about your soul? Can it be saved? Now, I just want to take this because he says, because this opening sentence has so much to unpack. Okay. Saving one's soul. All right. He starts off heavy. He says, hey, have you thought about your soul? And can it be saved? Now, I am one of those people, myself and my church. We at the Church of Last Resort believe that in the spiritual realm, souls are used as currency. And as an example, you hear people say things like, you can sell your soul to the devil. You can use it. You can use it to bargain. You know, people like to, dear Lord, blah 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 blah, soul, blah 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 blah. That's right, and that is a sacred prayer that people say. It can be, and as a currency, it can be invested, it can be wasted, it can be spent, or in some cases, it can be saved for the future. So he's asking you, have you thought about your currency? Can it be saved? Have you thought about your soul and can it be saved? Second line. Or perhaps you think that when you're dead, you just stay in your grave. Now, in that case, your soul, if it is currency, would have no more value than unclaimed coins in a couch cushion. Okay? If a soul is currency and you're not using it, then it's just like having change in a couch cushion. Nobody is going to ever find it until you clean up. Once you clean up the couch cushion, you're going to find that change and then you can use it. Same thing. You clean up your life, you can find that soul and then you can use it. Nobody wants a dirty soul. Is God just a thought? Sorry, next line. Is God just a thought within your head or is he part of you? Mm-mm-mm. This is an excellent question for James Michael Johnson's, for the James Michael Johnsons of the world. James Michael Johnson, the Speaker of the House, uh, just to you directly, you can claim to be a follower of Christ, but you cannot follow Christ and Trump. You can't. It can't be done. The two of them are so they are just so they're not even, they're worse than polar opposites. Okay. Well, yeah, because polar opposites are like this, here and here. All right. Way, way up here, way down there. And the further away you move from the pole in any direction, the further away you move from the pole in any direction, you're going to move closer to the other pole. And that's how it is with Christ and Trump. No matter what direction you move away from Christ, you're moving closer to Trump. That's right. So, and those people who follow Trump and claiming to be Christians, then that's a good question. Is God just a thought within your head? Like, I think about God. Yeah, I'm a Christian. Yeah, I believe in God. Yeah, I believe in acting holy. Really? Then why don't you? Because if he's part of you, you can't be part of the Trump crowd. That's plain and simple. Now, that's not Geezer saying that. That is not Geezer saying that. That is me just laying logic out there for you. Just laying logic. Okay? Now, next line. Is Christ just a name that you read in the book when you were in school? Well, depending on where you went to school, you probably weren't allowed to read books that had the name Christ in it. I don't know where that school is off the top of my head, but I'm just saying. But that's a very deep question. Okay? After getting many accusations of being Satanists for the albums Black Sabbath and Paranoid, the band decided to write a song to make their pro-Christian beliefs more clear. And these lines are all directed at the skeptics of their faith. Okay? Butler only asks questions here, allowing people to think for themselves and decide what they want to believe. And oddly enough, all those Christian words had no effect on either the people that called them Satanists, they still call them Satanists, and those people who like the Christian leaning lyrics of Black Sabbath, but they themselves were like heavy metal, hard anarchists, didn't affect them either. If you were a Black Sabbath fan, you stayed a Black Sabbath fan. And if you thought they were Satanists, you still thought they were Satanists, no matter how many wonderful words they wrote about their Savior and yours. Didn't matter. People were unfazed. Now, the second verse. When you think about death, do you lose your breath or do you keep you cool? Okay? In other words, are you worried? Are you worried? When you think about death, are you worried? Now, there's two schools of thought. If you think there's nothing after this, you're not worried. You die, you die. You can't do anything about it, you're not worried. And if you quote are a Christian or of any denomination where you lived your life in such a way that gets you heaven points, then you're not worried there either. So it's only those people who believe in an afterlife and don't know where they're going, they might be the ones who lose their breath. Now, under normal circumstances, and this is a good thing about this, when we breathe, air has to be at a certain temperature. Okay, there's a normal range, If it's too cold, we can't breathe. And if it's too hot, we can't breathe. And so when he's asking, are you going to lose your breath? He could be asking, is the air going to be too hot for you to breathe? He says, do you keep your cool? Will that air be in that right range where you can just and not have any problems? There's a little science in that faith somewhere. The next line, would you like to see the Pope on the end of a rope? Or do you think he's a fool? Now, this was written in 1970 something, and I'm not sure that Pope on a rope was a thing back then. When I say Pope on a rope, it was soap on a rope that looked like the Pope. And I don't think that's what they were talking about. If you'd like to see the Pope on the end of a rope. Because if he's talking about the soap, that's not such a bad thing. But I'm not sure the Pope on the rope in the form of a soap was that dope back then. Or do you think he's a fool? Now, okay, I have my own opinions about the Pope, And it's nothing to do with, quote, the religion. It's to do with the protecting of the priests. And again, I don't know what they knew about that then. I can't answer to that. I do not know what he knew. But apparently, in his mind, the Pope was not a bad guy. Or at least he's leaving that question up to you. What do you think? The next line in the verse, well, I have seen the truth. Okay, before I go with this, these particular lines, there's no question here. He's making a statement and he switched to a first person. But here's the tricky part. This first person part that he wrote this verse for is not himself. He's actually speaking as Ozzy Osbourne. He wrote this verse for Ozzy Osbourne and is speaking as Ozzy Osbourne, even though Ozzy Osbourne is singing it now. You see what I'm saying? Ozzy is a singer and he's singing this verse, but he didn't write this verse. Geezer wrote this verse so that Ozzy could sing this verse in the first person. That's right. And that verse goes like this. Well, I've seen the truth. I've seen the truth. Yes, I've seen the light and I've changed my ways. And I'll be prepared when you're lonely and scared at the end of our days. That's to see now. And at that point, this is what people do not realize. Ozzy had just recently converted to Christianity. It was real recent for him. So I'm not even sure that he was out of the closet yet, as far as Christianity goes. I'm not sure that he was out of that closet yet. But Geezer outed him, and he did it for him. So even though Ozzy sang those words in the first person, it was written by Geezer for Ozzy to sing in the first person and to allow Ozzy to out himself. Yeah, so that's all I got to say about that. Yep. Now the song goes to the bridge. Take it to the bridge. But to avoid copyright strikes, I'm not doing that stuff here. I'm not taking it to the bridge. I'm not singing the song like it should be sung because I'm avoiding copyright strikes. I can't afford another one if I have any. I can't. Yeah, I've won all the ones I've had so far, but I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of fighting YouTube. I'm tired of fighting over copyright strikes. I'm tired of fighting them. It's just like because their rules don't make sense and they're not consistent. They're not. No, we can't have nudity. And then I look and there's like naked titties and vaginas in my feed that I did not put there. But YouTube put there and there's something, you go back, they're still there. YouTube didn't do it, or maybe the algorithm likes it. I don't know, but not mine. I'm looking for raccoons and they show me, naked ladies, titties and vaginas, and the occasional cock. Okay? This is not my television set. This is my computer I'm talking about. I don't want that stuff in my computer. I'm sorry, where did I go? I'm at the bridge. See what happens when you get to, that was my fault. I'm supposed to be at the bridge, and I was acting like there was a fork, and I took the other way. I apologize. I took the fork instead of the bridge. After the bridge, the first line is like this. Could it be you're afraid of what your friends might say if they knew you believed in God above? Now, that's a good question also, because I did know people growing up who were, quote, Christians, but they didn't want people to know they were Christians. And so they'd be out in the street and they didn't let the light shine. They just pretended to be as evil, naughty, or wicked, or blasphemous as the next person because they didn't want other people to know. It's kind of like being a gay guy on a football team. And then you're in the locker room and all the other people are just bashing gay men or gay people. And you know you're gay and you just go along with it and go like, yeah, gay be like, yeah, that's what they be doing, yeah. And or they be talking about women and you're not even down with women. And they're saying things like, yeah, I like to tap that ass. Yeah, look at that. I want to, and then you go like, yeah, I like to, Yeah, that's me. I like to touch the penis to the vagina. That's me. Yep, I'm always, and you just don't want them to know. And the truth of the matter is, you're happier if you just be yourself. Just be yourself. If you're going to be a Christian, don't pretend you're not. See, and that's the other thing for you Trump people. God bless you. And I hate to bring this back to politics, but if you're going to be a Christian, you got to be a Christian away from Trump. You can't be a Christian and a Trump follower. You just can't. You can't. But you're afraid your friends will find out or think you're weak if you respect other people's rights, if you believe that people, are equal. I'm not saying the same. I'm saying equal, entitled to the same rights and the same happiness. I'm not saying the same. I'm just talking about entitled to happiness and loving who you want to love. Okay. The next line says, they should realize, talking about the people who are your quote friends, they should realize before they criticize that God is the only way to love. Okay. Now, so he's trying to give you some support. He's trying to give you some support. He's saying, like, hey, look, it's not you. Okay. If you want to be a Christian and be strong. Don't worry about your friends. Don't worry about your friends. It's their problem if you're a Christian. If they cannot accept you for who you are, then they are not your friends. Next line. Is your mind so small? Now, again, he's talking to people who don't believe in God. Or I'll read the line and then I'll explain. Is your mind so small that you have to fall in with the pack wherever they run? Again, this is twofold. One, if you're a person of faith, are you going to follow the pack wherever they run just because you don't want them to know you're a Christian? But also, if you are not a believer, because in Geezer's mind, Christianity is real and it's a real option, a real way to live. And he wants to know, are you so small that you can't run with him? You got to run with the pack. And wherever they're going, if they're running toward hatred, you're running toward hatred with them. If they're, and this goes back to God is the only way to love. There are people out there who got their tiki torches and their bats and their tear gas, and they're just pepper spraying people because all they want is to be free, and they want their friends to be free and their families to be free and not under the oppressive regime of a fucking dictator. That's all they want. Okay? They don't want they just want to be happy. And says, don't follow the pack wherever they run. Be strong. Be strong. Have faith and show your faith. Now, will you still sneer when death is near and say that you may as well worship the sun? Now, they're talking about S-U-N, son. Okay? So it's basically saying you're a pagan. Now, I don't think pagans are a bad thing or heathens. I think people misunderstand them. To understand what a pagan or a heathen is. And we will break down paganism and heathenism at a later date. Because I don't want to argue against his point necessarily. But he says, will you still sneer when death is near? Now, back earlier, when he's talking about death, he says, will you lose your cool? Okay, now he says, will you sneer like that? No, I'm not worried about death. So, and here worshiping the sun is more like worshiping money, not the S-O-N, but the S-U-N, the things of the warmth and comforts of this place. In the third verse, it says, I think it is true. Okay. This verse meant a lot to me when I was a teenager, when I was a youth. Okay, I'm going to read the verse in its entirety. Yeah, I'm going to read the verse in its entirety up to the guitar solo. Okay. I think it is true. It was people like you that crucified Christ. I think it is sad the opinion you had was the only one voiced. Will you be sure when your day is near, say you don't believe? You had the chance, but you turned it down. Now you can't retrieve. Now, the reason why this verse meant a lot to me has very, very little to do with Black Sabbath as much as it had to do with my state of mind at the time. Because at that time I was seeking. I was seeking. Uh, I had friends around me who thought I should been like leading a cult, so to speak. Uh, and I had no desire in it. Um, but we had a group of friends who uh, we used to hang out together. And one of the young men was a young man named Chris. I can't remember what his last name is, but it was the same as his father's. Matter of fact, so was his first name. He was a junior. I can't remember his father's last name. Or his, well, I remember his father's first name, but it was also Chris. So we went to Chris's house. His father was a black man of means back then. Not all my friends were black, but in this particular group, actually the group was a mix. We had all literally we looked like a union, a UN. That's what our group of friends looked like. But in this subgroup of us four black guys, we went to Chris's house, and I can't even remember why we went there. Um, But we walked through the living room, and Chris's father was a community leader, and there was a bunch of elderly black people there holding a meeting, and they were discussing um, the state of black people in the 70s. Okay, because it was the 70s. They weren't talking about the 90s because they hadn't come yet, and also black youth because they were concerned. They were looking. They were concerned about black youth in the 70s. I don't blame them for being concerned. So we're walking through, and we walked through the living room where the meeting is, and I was last in line, and the other three just walked through. And when I got there, I excused us. I said, "Pardon us for interrupting. I apologize." And I'm walking, and I hear them talking, and they said something that just set me off. And I stopped following the other kids upstairs to Chris's room, and I went back and I just started reading them the riot act. And I just told them what because they had these misconceptions of what black youth was like. And I was like, I'm a black youth and I'm not like what you're talking about. And so I just went in and I just tore them a new one. And as a result, and at some point, I went on for like 5 or 6 minutes, maybe 7. And at one point, I started quoting Black Sabbath. And the line I quoted was, "I think it was true. It's people like you that crucified Christ. I think it's sad the opinion you have was the only one voice." Now, I don't remember how I got to that point, and they thought that it was so poignant, that I said that. They were like, "Whoa." And as a result, oh, Anthony Dunn has a question: is how do I get to heaven? It depends on where you are, Anthony. Um, uh, where are you? Because I can tell you how to get there. You can't. If they have an Uber service, you can try that. Bus, train, plane, automobile. Um, but here's the thing: in almost every case, you have to die. So in almost every case, you have to die. Now, but thank you for the question, Anthony. Now, so afterwards, these people spoke to me and they talked to me and uh, they got my information. And next thing you know, they're offering me, they want to interview me for a scholarship for University of North Carolina A&T. And I have been offered a scholarship from Lincoln University. I think that's in Pennsylvania. I've been offered because of that me standing up for what I believed in against people who were older than me, wiser than me, much more affluent than I was and am. But because I stood up to them so fervently without fear, they took notice. And I wind up getting offered 3 different scholarships to 3 different historically black colleges, of which I blew them all. That's a different story for a different time. I didn't blow them all on my own. I had help. I had help. But that's why that verse is kind of like important to me. So then there's the guitar solo, which, yeah, in my day, I could play it. I used to be able to play everything that Tony Iommi played. I was hooked. I could play all of Tony's riffs, yeah, not hard. Most of it's pentatonic and blues scale, really. And then for the outro, perhaps this is how the song ends. Perhaps you'll think before you say God is dead and gone. Right, that's the perhaps you'll think before you say God is dead and gone. Now, this is a reference to Friedrich Nietzsche, a German philosopher who is famous for saying that God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him. How shall we comfort ourselves, the murderers of all murderers? Yeah, because we killed God, we're the biggest murderers of all. Now, later on, Black Sabbath, like 42 years later, they had a song called God is Dead on their 13th album, I think in 2013. And the album art for that album, right? The album art for that album is a picture of Friedrich Nietzsche on the foreground. And this is like a direct reference to Nietzsche as opposed to the hidden reference in the where it says God is dead. Or do you believe God is dead? Okay. Then it continues, open your eyes, just realize that he is the only one who can save you now from all this sin and hate. Or will you jeer at all you hear? Yes, I think it's too late. Now, because I think it's too late is like, if you jeer, then it may be too late for you. Okay, now there are those who say it's never too late. There's hope for people, even if they're, quote, in hell, there's still hope for salvation. And that's a matter of school of thought, because none of us have ever gone there to find out, the truth. That's why this is all called like faith and stuff like that. None of us have been there to find out. We all have our opinions, and everything I'm expressing here is my opinion based on my experiences and my education and my interpretation. But I'm using the words in this case of Geezer Butler, bass player for then bass player for Black Sabbath. Now, like I said, this song had a huge impact on me when I was a teenager, and I got scholarship offers that I could not keep. But hey, that's the way things go. It's not about me though. The song's about you. Now, what did you, if you have not heard After Forever, when we redo this, and I put this in out there on the YouTubes, cut this down to a short, well, just a sermon itself, there will be a link to a YouTube video After Forever, and you can listen to the song for yourself and decide for yourself if you think I'm full of shit or if I've covered what what the lyrics could and should mean. Now, I do not know what next week's song is going to be, but I will look it up, mainly because I've been so busy, with looking for. I got stuff to do. Yes, I'm here on Sundays, but Monday through Saturday, I'm a husband and a family man and a homemaker, other things that I have to do during the week. But I will have a lesson plan for next week. I don't know what the song is yet. And if you have a suggestion, feel free to put it in a text or email me at the Dr. Rev Jelly Rolle, gmail.com, and that please put an E at the end of roll. If you have a song suggestion that alludes to God in pop music, I'm not saying don't give me a song like Jesus is just all right with me. There's no illusion there. It's just like he comes out and says it, like in the first line, Jesus is just all right with me there. Or Spirit in the Sky. Yeah, everybody knows those songs. Bring me something that not many people don't know or may not know that's there. Or they've been listening to it and go like, whoa, that was right there. Like Lenny Kravitz's Are You Gonna Go My Way? Don't give me that one. We've already done it.